All right, so we are live here. Kelli, just give me a little wave if you could hear me. Um, but I'm Katie Budz, and I'm joined here with Kelli Josephsen, and we are the two founders of Give Go Physio. And this will be our first live recording together, and we're going to turn this into a little bit of a podcast so that we can share our experience with you all. And going forward, we're hoping to interview a lot of great coaches, players, and physical therapists who influence women and girls basketball players in the basketball world. So basically, we'll get started right away. So let's introduce Kelli. How's it going, Kelli?
Awesome. Great, Kate. Awesome. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's a beautiful what is it, Tuesday night in Chicago, and it's still kind of bright out. So there we go. Looks a little dark on your end. That's okay.
Yeah, Jersey's the same way. Yeah, sun's starting to go down. It's a little later here. But yeah, a gorgeous night. So like we're both outside because we can be because it's June and finally nice out.
All right. Well, we are both.
But yeah, that's where. So Katie's in Chicago,
and we both love basketball. So my question to you, Kelli, is why do you love basketball?
Question, and I love it. I love basketball for a different reason every day. And today I love basketball because it gives me the chance to coach on the court and learn all the lessons that sports are supposed to teach you that are really hard to learn elsewhere. So I love basketball for all the lessons that it teaches us and the metaphors that it has for life. That's my short answer. I'm sure as we go through this podcast that we'll fully expand on those answers a lot, and people will come to learn and love why we love the game so much. So I'm gonna turn it back to you, Kate, and ask you the same thing. Why do you love basketball?
Yeah, so basketball for me has been a part of my life growing up. I think I first started playing, I was in like 4-year-old preschool. I can still remember my family has like a little video of my first basketball game. I'm actually a triplet. So I was on the same team as my brother and my sister, and we all played together. So that was my first experience with basketball. And just growing up, me and my older sister kind of took basketball on as our like go-to sport, and I just loved everything about it. And it's kind of unexpected from a person like me because I'm 5'1", super short. But I love the game, and I figured out a way to make it happen for me and be successful on and off of the court. And so basketball for me has just been a part of my upbringing, and it's been a family thing for me just because my sister played, and I always had a supportive family coming out to all of my games. And I just love the sport for what it is. The teamwork portion of it. Some of my best friends are teammates, and they still are. And then just being able to be involved in something greater than a sport. Basketball, it is a sport, but it gives you so much more than just the physical exercise and activity. So now I've gone through all my years of playing basketball, played in high school, played in college, and I still can't give it up. So I want to stay involved in the basketball world as much as I can.
I know, we all
love the game.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
That's my basketball background.
Completely the same way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I am not an active coach, so I don't coach a team. But I love working with girls basketball players and basketball players in general as a physical therapist, and also in like the strength training and conditioning realm. But I know Kelli is a basketball coach. So Kelli, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in coaching, and actually like what does the word coach mean to you?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, right, we're both physical therapists. To have an awesome 8th grade coach who, when I was maybe a sophomore in high school, scooped me up and had me come back in and help out with the 8th grade team, which I had only ever really learned it. So it gave me the opportunity to teach the game while I was still a student of it in high school. And it gave me a chance to coach my future teammates. So some of those girls who were in 8th grade when I was in 10th grade, we were going to come up and play together. And so that was a really cool opportunity. And that's when I first realized how much I enjoyed just being around the game, right? Any excuse to get into a gym and to teach or learn was like paradise. Through high school, I went on to play Division II college basketball at St. Anselm College, and then I transferred going into my junior year experiences. Very different playing experiences, Division II versus III, New Hampshire versus Washington, D.C. And I'm really glad that I had both of those experiences because it gave me a whole new perspective on the game and the rigors of college hoops, and an appreciation for the injuries that I went through. And we'll talk about those, I'm sure, another time. But so when I was in college, right, I'd go back home and I'd be home for a week because we'd only get a week of winter break. And any chance I could, right, between seeing my family for Christmas and friends over Christmas break, it was a matter of like, all right, when can I get in the gym to help the 8th grade team out? Right, because that was where I was coaching. So I'd always stayed involved in my town in that regard. And then when I was in grad school, right, I went from biology major undergrad to physical therapy school, and I was up at school in Boston. And my best friend's dad was part of an AAU organization, and they needed a 6th grade coach my second year of school. So it's funny because I would take the train, right, from Boston up to Wakefield, and they would pick me up and they'd drive me to the gym, and I'd practice for an hour and a half with my team. And then I'd drive back home to Boston. I'd get back home to Boston at like 10:30 at night, right, and have to study and have to eat and have to everything else, and I loved it. And so I found this way to coach while I was in school. And my last year of school was an internship. I had emailed the town I was interning in, that was in Norwood, Massachusetts, and they were great. They were like really excited to have somebody kind of young, relatively new, relatively fresh out of college come in and just help out. I was helping out one of the moms who was 6th grade. And so I managed to coach while I was working 4 10-hour days. I would look forward to coaching at the end of the day. And it was really a good mix of physical therapy and coaching because we could see a lot of injury prevention, or if it was hurt, I was still a student at the time, I could kind of tease out how to treat them, right? How to reduce the significance of that injury. So when I finished my internship in Boston, I knew I wanted to move home to New Jersey because this is my home family. At like a private high school in our area, would you want to do that while you like look for a physical therapy job? So that could be fun while I looked around for a real job. So I ended up coaching JV soccer at Mount St. Dominic Academy here in Caldwell, and I loved it. And I managed to find a part-time PT job where I worked until 1 o'clock, right? So I worked 8 to 1. That was actually 3 days a week, and I was done, and I could coach, right? I could coach after school. So I did that. JV soccer turned into freshman basketball, turned into helping JV softball. So what had intentionally been like, oh, while I look for a physical therapy job, I'll coach. It was like, oh, okay, I have to now forge this path because I just love coaching high school athletes. And I think it's such a powerful population to be working with. And I have so much respect for the coaches who do work with high school girls because we remember it, right? It was such a vulnerable time in our lives where if you have a good influence, it can alter the course of your life, right? It can really propel you in a positive direction if you have someone who can fall back on, who believes in you, who wants what's best for you. And so I managed since then. I had worked in a school last year. And I loved working with the little kiddos, but I just didn't love the rest of the atmosphere that went with working as a school PT. And very long story short, I just opened my own clinic a few months ago here in West Caldwell. It's called Dr. Coach Kelli Physical Therapy because it's the perfect blend of, right, that's right. So it's cool. It's a really it's a scary journey, but I have a ton of support, and my family and my fiance has been amazing. and really like the community that I'm a part of has been really supportive. So I'm really lucky to have that, and definitely feel like I'm taking an unconventional route in being a physical therapist, and also as a coach. It's I kind of flip wearing hats, but again, they fall really nicely into each other. The best part of coaching is, for me as a PT, is being on the front lines of injury prevention, right? And we'll talk a lot more about this, but injury prevention is not cool, right? Injury prevention is not something that you sign up for and you take lessons for. It's not something that you think about, but sports performance is, right? You have people all over the place doing sports performance improvement and strength training and conditioning and agility and speed and all this other stuff. But when you're their coach and they have to be there anyway and they have to do what you say, like, you better believe it. Coach Ket, like I'm developing a little niche, and like the kids are like, "Are we gonna do those jumps, Coach Kelly?" Like, you better believe it, we're doing the jumps, man. Like, we broad jump, and they know how they're supposed to land, and it's actually been really cool to kind of see that transformation happen with our kids. But
yeah, that's like
it's definitely
a position to be in. You are really on the front lines of, you know, getting access to those players every single day, and you're able to implement things as a physical therapist. And like you said, injury prevention isn't the most exciting, it's not the sexiest thing ever, It's like, a lot of times I say, I'm going to coach people in injury prevention. What does that mean? Learning to jump and land properly, and if I need to work with somebody for 15, 20 minutes on how to jump straight up and down the right way, that may not be the most fun session for somebody, right? But, it's so important. Boring. And if you can incorporate that into a practice, that's amazing. And then also as a coach, you have like that perspective of just seeing the results, So if somebody has an injury, or with injury prevention, you get to see every day the improvements of how everything translates onto the court. Because as physical therapists, right, I work in an outpatient orthopedic and sports-oriented clinic. I get to work with, athletes every day, whether they're coming off an injury or if they're healthy, in the sports performance realm. And they're in my clinic, and we're doing box jumps, we're doing like line jumps, jumping over cones, changing directions, but how does that directly translate to their game on the court, right? So as a coach and as a physical therapist, Kelli, you're in such a good position to see that direct translation, which is really awesome.
Yeah, it's super rewarding, and I have a ton of respect for the PTs who do return to sport, because it's hard to replicate in a clinic. It's hard to get a kid excited about that, right? And you don't always get to see them take their first sprint, right, or get their first fast break after they are coming back from an ankle sprain or an ACL injury or another serious injury. So I'm super spoiled in that regard. That's one of the things I love about combining both worlds.
Awesome. Can you just repeat that last part? I didn't quite hear you. I'm sorry. I'm at a coffee shop, and there's like a Chicago L train literally like right behind me.
It sounds like a.
So I'm missing a few things, but.
No, we're good. No, I have a ton of respect for the physical therapists who do return to sport, because you don't always get to see your kid take that first sprint or go on that first fast break, excuse me. But the work you do as in the rehab realm is so tremendously important, and it doesn't get, no one's hanging that picture of them at physical therapy in their office the next day, right? It's always the picture of them out on the court, and as their coach, I get to see that, or I get to see them continue to do that, and it offers a really great, rewarding perspective for me. But if there's one thing I learned in physical therapy school, it was this art of like reflection, right? And being able to kind of reflect in the moment. And sometimes I'm in the gym and I look at myself and I'm like, do I really get to do this? Like, is this what, like, I really get to, I can make a living off of basketball and coaching girls and keep it safe. Like this, it's just such a cool atmosphere to be a part of, and it's really surreal sometimes. I love it.
Yeah, that's really awesome that you're able to really combine your two loves. You've got physical therapy, coaching, and you're putting them together. And I don't think there's many people who do that. I think we see a lot of like physical therapists who do coach in like the CrossFit world and do sports performance and everything, but in like the actual coaching of a sport, a team sport, we don't see too often. So it's definitely something that's super unique.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So Kelli, let's talk a little bit about like our mission for Give Go Physio, and kind of how we're going to combine both of our expertises as physical therapists and being involved in the basketball world as a coach and just someone who loves to be involved with the game, and how we have like a little bit of a different perspective and what we want to bring to our followers and what kind of information, what kind of value we want to share with the women's and girls basketball world.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to be a part of this, right? Katie had started this a little while ago and asked me to jump on board a few months ago, and I was pumped because you'll remember this. When we first talked on the phone, and we talked about what we wanted to accomplish in the girls basketball community, like you said a goal of yours and I said a goal of mine, and they were like just about the same things, right? So like before we even knew each other, we had a lot of a similar purpose, right? And having both been former basketball players, we work better with teammates. And I think this was just kind of meant to be, and it took us a little while to get here, but we're finally here and doing it.
Yeah, so we definitely both have the same perspective and the same goals. Basically, our mission of Give Go Physio is to educate and provide resources for coaches and players to learn how to properly train in order to prevent and avoid injury. We see the staggering, numbers of ACL injuries in girls basketball players, and it's just going up and up every year. I actually just read some research, and it was from a few years ago, but in the NCAA, women's basketball was the second highest sport to have the most incidents of ACL tears. So if this is something that we can help address and help teach coaches and players how to train properly in a way that will A, prevent injury, and then B, increase their performance, right? Because injury prevention equals performance enhancement, right? So while you're doing injury prevention things, you're getting stronger, faster, more explosive, all of that. So all of that combines together in a way that injury prevention and sports performance go hand in hand. So if we could, teach coaches and players, give even like one or two things that they can take away and implement in practice, and if that prevents an ACL tear, like that is so worth it.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And I think I have such an admiration and respect for other girls basketball coaches because it's a hard sport to coach. It definitely is. There's a lot of moving pieces, and you think you have a lot of control, but you don't. And I always say we owe it to our players, right? There's some injuries you can't do anything about. The risk of sport comes with the risk of injury. If you collide with somebody, or you catch an unlucky break, or you catch an unlucky, you dive into the stands, there's a risk of injury there. But the ones that we can do something about, the ones that we can lower. Hi guys, my nieces are here. Do you want to meet them?
You're so alone outside.
I'm not alone outside. Grace, this is Katie. This is Grace and Nora, my nieces.
Hi, Grace.
My mom's here.
You're so alone.
I'm not alone. I'm talking to Katie.
Are they
I'll
all
come inside later.
too?
All
of the basketball players?
Oh, you're leaving?
It's day.
Hello, Chicago. Say hi, Chicago.
It's only not 8 o'clock where Katie is now.
It's still bright here in Chicago.
So bright out. I had to use the
Nice to
flashlight.
meet you.
Good to meet you guys.
You
All right.
too.
We're doing an interview, so I gotta go, but I love you.
Okay.
Guess what we're talking about? Sports, she says.
Sports.
Yeah, which one specifically?
Yep, we're talking about sports.
Basketball. We're talking about basketball. Katie's a basketball player.
Bye.
One of her pictures.
All right. Say bye, I love you.
Bye.
Bye, Pearson.
Does she have feet?
Yes,
Love you.
come on.
Yeah,
Where's your
Pearson's
feet
gonna
go?
go with you. All right. You got him? Okay.
I don't know.
So
where-
adorable.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
man.
Kelly's
Please
got
hold
a
him tightly.
goodness.
and
Oh boy.
I have like a whole team of my own that's here.
yeah, and that's
They're-
exactly it. Your family is like your team. So
Yeah, they totally are. They totally are. Yeah, I told you that might happen. What were we talking about? Oh, the injuries that we can do something about.
yeah.
So we owe it to our players, right, to intervene in some way on the injuries that we can do something about.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll give
Yeah,
you a
Mom.
little bit of like my background. So I tore my ACL. Kelly's just saying bye to her peeps.
Yep. Sorry, guys. For the podcast that we're starting. Love you. Okay. Bye.
So cute.
They're something. They're the best. They're the best. You're good.
But yeah, as physical therapists, we have the knowledge and we really owe it to the athletes that we're working with to give them the tools to be successful and to reduce the risk of injury. And I look back on my time as a player. I played Division III basketball at Dominican University, which is in Chicago. And I ended up tearing my ACL during my senior year, right about the halfway point of my senior season. And I look back at like the training that I did and everything. And, I was in the gym every day. I was a hard worker. I was busting out those squats and I was, putting in 2-hour workouts, in the preseason and all of that. But I look back and I wasn't training the right way. A little bit of it was like overtraining. A little bit of it was just not knowing how to train properly. If I would have asked myself my senior year of college, could I do a single leg squat properly with good body mechanics and form? I would probably tell you, yeah, like no problem, I got that. And then if you were to like videotape me trying to do a single leg squat, heck no. Like no, yeah. And like a single leg squat, right? For us as physical therapists, we know a single leg squat is like the basis of how you plant your foot and change direction.
Cornerstone. Right.
So a single leg squat kind of tells us a lot about your muscle strength and your body mechanics and just a little bit about your risk for injury. So just looking back, I put the work in, I worked really hard, but was it the right way? And did I have people kind of guiding me in the right direction of like, let's start at the basics, the basics of can you get your glutes to fire properly? And do you just jump and land and change direction in the most efficient and the safest way, right? So it's just building a really solid foundation and then building on top of that. So you can be like an elite athlete, right? You can be in the best shape of your life. But does that mean you're training properly? Not always.
Right.
So I look back on my basketball experience and I say, hey, I don't want that to happen to any other girls basketball player. So if I can have an impact on one player, that's worth it. But if I can have an impact on a full team of players, that's even more worth it. And if I can have an impact on everyone we can touch through the online world, so many teams, many coaches, totally worth it. So it's a little bit of my background of like my injury and my why it's so important to me. Go ahead.
Yours was a non-contact, right? A non-contact ACL injury?
Non-contact injury. I'll give you the little play-by-play. So, my team was winning.
This is horrifying.
Awesome.
Yep.
I had the fortunate and unfortunate experience of being on a really good college team. We won our conference division championship one year. And then the next year we lost a lot of really good players on our team. We welcomed a new coach, so we were super young. And we went from basically first place down to last place. And we really struggled. But this was the one game we were winning, right? So super excited, we're winning. We're up by probably like 15 points. Like, this is awesome. I just got like a really good steal. I'm like this short little fast like point guard. Just got a really good steal. I'm on a fast break, wide open layup, nobody around me. For some reason, I decided instead of just doing a regular layup, I decided to jump stop and put a left-handed layup in there. And on that jump stop, as I went back up to go to that layup, that's when my ACL tore right there. So basically, non-contact injury, nobody was around me. Nobody even bumped me before the injury. And so it was just as I planted my foot and twisted towards the basket, going from a jump stop into a layup. And that just shows, you know, there's no one to blame for those types of injuries except for like looking back and seeing like how that training like was improper. You know, I didn't get pushed, you know, no one fell on me. I didn't land on anyone. So it's really those non-contact ACL injuries and those non-contact injuries in general, right? So ACL injuries are one of the biggest injuries that we like to address, but there's also, you know, all of those like ankle injuries that we see so much in basketball as well. And just all injuries in general that are non-contact that can really be prevented. Yeah, so that's my ACL story right there.
Yeah, man. Dude, I'm so sorry that happened.
Yeah,
Like,
now, you know, blessing into
that's
I had no idea what physical therapy was before I tore my ACL. And
yeah.
Therapist help people every single day
Right.
recover from those injuries, and then also prevent them and teach how to reduce those.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
I think that's kind of a common story among physical therapists. We suffer an injury and then we learn about the field and we see the relationships and the changes that and the influence and the positive impact that our PT had on our lives and our kind of outlook on the recovery. But like, I don't know, you could have not, it could have not taken you 9 months to learn that lesson, right? Like it could have, the recovery from an ACL is brutal. And what's more concerning to me, right, and you'll appreciate this too, what's more concerning to me is once you've torn it once, your likelihood for tearing it again goes up, your likelihood for tearing your other one goes up, right? And the same goes for ankle sprains. I've always found this really interesting, but the highest risk for injury is previous injury, one of the best indicators that we have. So if we can prevent or reduce those injuries in the first place, like, yeah, if we can delay that first injury for a long time, that's what we owe our kids. So I think that we just owe it to them so much. And it's so funny that you say like, okay, there's no. Say it again.
You're really ensuring a success rate. Preventing injury, because you know it's a waterfall effect. Things happen after that first injury.
Yeah.
Things happen after that first injury.
Yep. No, I think it's funny that you say too, like there's no one to blame but yourself. But like as a coach, if I have a player go down with a non-contact injury, I'm like, I'm shaking my head, right? So I coach high school soccer as well, and we've had two, not this past year I coached, the year before, we had unfortunately two seniors go down with contact ACL tears. They just collided with another teammate. One collided with a goalie, and they went down. And I remember running out there, and I pride myself on being the first voice they hear. I think I told you about this, but like, rather than some different athletic trainer from another school, if they hear Coach Kelly, right, it's at least something comforting, right? Something familiar to them in this really scary moment in their life. And I remember running over, and one of the girls was like, Coach Kelly, it's torn. Coach Kelly, it's torn. Coach Kelly, it's torn. And I was like, we don't know that yet. That was the first thing I said to her. I was like, we don't know what it is. The first thing is to get you to like take a deep breath and calm down. And we're not in a rush, but we'll get you off the field and then we'll figure it out. But had those been non-contacts, like the first thing in my head is like, what could I have done? Mm-hmm. This poor kid is now going to go through a $15,000 surgery, right? And 9 months of rehab because because it's something that I could have done about it. There's something that I could have done about it. And I know a lot of coaches feel that way. And I think that's part of the mission of Give and Go is we want to provide a resource, a great resource, like the resource for coaches who are concerned about the health and well-being of their players. Because every coach is. It's just a matter of the degrees to which they prioritize their players' health. And I love my players, and I'll say this probably a bunch on this podcast. Like, I'll tell my players, listen, I love you, but you don't do me much good if you have to sit on the bench because you're hurt. We have to do everything we can to keep you healthy. And I've been really fortunate in that we haven't had, I'll knock on wood, but I'm also going to keep doing our injury prevention stuff to keep our players safe and healthy, because we haven't really had a non-contact significant injury.
Yeah, and I think that's just like a really good point of like most coaches, coaches, like when injuries like that do happen, those non-contact, like catastrophic injuries, you do feel responsible for it, at least a little bit. And the thing is, like, a lot of coaches don't have resources. They may have like one athletic trainer at their school, right, that serves like 50 teams. They might have one strength coach if they're lucky, who does actual like formal strength and conditioning sessions with their team. So a lot of the time it is on the shoulders of the coach to provide training, preseason and throughout the season. So it's normal as a coach to feel that way when those injuries happen, and we want to give the resources to you directly as a coach and give you the tools that you can implement so that you can save your players from having those types of injuries. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, Kelli, I have another question for you. So what is the best piece of basketball advice that you've ever gotten from a coach, a player of yours, a mentor of yours, somebody in the basketball world?
Oh, man.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
No. I love it. Because I have had like a bunch of things in the Rolodex. But when I transferred from Division 2 to Division 3, and I had something to prove when I came onto my Division 3 team. There was nothing was going to be given to me. I knew that. And I remember first couple days of pickup, right? Just starting school in September. First couple days of pickup, feeling like really intimidated. And I didn't really have a reason to be. My teammates were great. Everybody was friendly. But I felt like I had to prove myself. And my brother, who's 4 years older than me, and like the reason that I really play, and I'm sure, again, we'll get into all of this, but he calling him and like just laying it all out there, just venting, just telling him like how scared I was. And I wrote it down on a Post-it note, and I kept it with me through all college. And he was like, "Kel, just go play. Just go play. That's it. Don't worry about anything else. Like, just go play." And that was and now I use it in life, right? It's a little different because, life isn't exactly the same as basketball. But it's like, you're never going to learn anything if you're worried about what's going to happen. Like, you just have to go play. And that was the best piece of advice I got in that time of like transition, right? In that time of timidness and scaredness, that really, really boosted my confidence and let me do what I was capable of doing, right? Which was making that team and then having an impact on that team, and then being the influence that my teammates needed to get us to be really successful. And they were just as impactful on me. So that advice of just go play, like, holy, it's the simplest thing. Like, I could kick him for it, but it's really made all the difference. It really has. I'm throwing that back at you, Kate. So in all your basketball years, right, and in being a PT, and what's the best advice you've either gotten from a coach or a patient?
The advice that you got is fantastic. I mean, I know there's a lot of basketball players out there who, they're afraid to take the jump, because they're afraid of what other people will think about them. If they train a certain way, or, if they set a certain goal, and they share that goal with somebody, what are other people going to think? If they set a goal of, I want to score, 10 points a game next season, and if they're at the bottom of, scoring 1 basket a game, and they want to be a big scorer the next year and be that type of role on their team, it's scary to share those goals with people sometimes. But to know just to, go for it, put in your work and just go play, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to respond to your advice, and I think it applies to so many people. So
it does.
But yeah, so the best basketball advice that I have gotten, probably just, you get out what you put in, right? So no matter how skilled you are or unskilled you are, if you invest in yourself as a player, you put time in the gym, you seek out additional resources to help you with your game, and you find the people that are going to uplift you and help you, it's just going to better yourself, right? So it's just if you invest in yourself, put all of that effort in, you're going to see the return. And one thing that I've heard, I don't know if it was one coach that told me this, but something that just resonated with me throughout my time playing basketball is, I think it was actually not basketball related, but Sue Enquist, who was the softball coach at UCLA for so many years, super successful. Sue Enquist. She came and spoke at my school when I was an athlete at Dominican University. And one thing she said was, if you put your head down, if you love the game will pay you back. So it's just if you do what you're supposed to do, the game will pay you back. You may not know what that's going to look like. It may be different than the goal that you set. But if you put in the work, good things will come, pretty much. So that's something that's always
I love that.
And, and it just relates back to why do you love basketball and why do you love the game, So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. And game will pay you back. And God, it's so metaphorical. There's such beauty in it. Literally everything we do in life, right? The time you put into a relationship, the time you put in to a skill that you want to learn, right? A time that you put into just about anything, right? Whether you put in a lot of time, you get a lot back, or you put in a little time, you get a little back. Mm-hmm. The game will pay you back. I love it. Man, I love it so much.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
All right.
I want to ask you a follow up to your advice of the advice that you got of what you get in will be what you put out. Who's been an example of that to you? Who have you seen that in, that you're I could see how that might work?
Man, that is such a good question. I'm thinking of a list of, a lot of coaches that I know that have shown that in their coaching. It's one thing as a coach, I don't have that much experience coaching, but I can see and I know which coaches have invested in themselves as a coach, and then that investment as a coach turns into investment in your players, right? So I had a really great college basketball coach, Coach Mike Lane, who actually
Coach Lane,
super close to
Coach
Kelli.
Lane. He's awesome.
And was fortunate enough to meet up with Kelli and chat a little bit. But he is one of the people that I can really tell has invested in himself as a coach. That means staying up super late, doing that scouting report, learning as much as you can about the game, finding mentors as a coach, and then looking at your squad, looking at your players and saying, how has all of this information that I've invested in myself, that I know about the game, how can I apply that to them in their skill sets, right? Because you could have like all this knowledge about basketball, different offensives, different defenses, and you can say, yeah, I want to put those into play. But if you don't apply it to the strengths of your team and the roles that your team has, it doesn't matter. So I think he's just like a really good example of putting in a lot of hard work. And, he's really grown as a coach and climbed up the ladder. He's now at NJIT and coaches there. He's a head coach. And, I could just really tell that he's put in a lot of that time and effort. And, he's seen the return on it, which is really awesome to see. Really great coaches who start, a lot of coaches start at that high school level. And, it's a slow climb up the ladder. But as long as you keep investing in yourself and putting in the work and all of that, it happens for you. So he's a really good example. And then I'd also say, like, my older sister, who I got to play basketball with in college for 2 years, she's 2 years older than I am. She was just a really good example of putting your head down and, putting the work in. And she really influenced me and pushed me to, put that work in so that I could see the result on the other end. So those are the two people that really influenced my basketball just kind of career and helped me to like be successful as a player on the court, and then also, turn that into how do you invest in yourself and better yourself in life, and how do you translate those basketball things to life. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet up with Coach Lane, and he was really cool and like a huge mentor for me, and a really good kind of bright light in the field of coaching that I'm going to be sure to follow. I'm really looking forward to the potential of like just going to his practices, right, and seeing what a coach at that level, what they demand of their team. So I'm really excited for that. So I thank you again for hooking us up, because he's awesome. I can see how that would be an example of when you put the work in, good things will happen, or the game will pay you back. I love that.
Awesome. All right, Kelli. So anything else you want to share before we kind of wrap it up here? Anything that we kind of missed that you are like really wanting to share with our audience?
I don't think so. I think the main message is like whatever coaches are looking for as far as health and injury prevention, that's what we want to provide. So I would certainly invite coaches to find us, and we'll put all our social media and all that other good stuff in the show notes, right, when we get this thing going, and reach out to us, because that's really what we want to be, is resources. Other things will come out of this, but to have two female physical therapists who love the game and want to very clearly like share that love and be around others who appreciate it and want to keep their players healthy, because we just know it as coaches, if they're not healthy, right, it makes my job a lot harder as their coach to make us a good team, right? So keeping them healthy is the top priority, keeping them safe is the top priority, and us as healthcare practitioners, that's our main job too. So I would just encourage people to reach out to us. Don't hesitate. We're pretty nice. And there's no such thing as like silly questions, right? Especially, coaches younger, older, it doesn't matter. Players younger, older, it doesn't matter. Any question, especially as we start out, is a good one. So reach out for sure.
Yeah, for sure. We want to be a resource for you all as coaches and as players. If you have a question about literally anything, feel free to ask. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find the answer for you, or we'll connect you with somebody who can help you out. It's all about, giving you guys the resources to be successful. So that's really just what we want to do, is, use our expertise to make you a better coach, make you a better player, and really reduce those injuries and just elevate the game of girls basketball, honestly. So
that, I love it. Awesome. All right, so we can wrap it up.
Yeah,
Our
let's roll.
final question. All right. I was asked this in an interview
Our final
a few weeks
question.
ago, and I loved it, so I'm stealing it. And the question is really simple, and it's what annoys you? So, Katie Bud, what annoys you?
All right, so what annoys me? Okay, so I'm one of those people that I have quite a few things throughout my day that annoys me, but probably the number one thing that annoys me is people who complain. You know, you have the people that come in right off the bat in the beginning of the day, you know, how are you today? And, you know, you've got, oh, okay. No, let's say, like, I'm doing great, you know? I've had a great day. And just, like, complaining doesn't get you anywhere, right? So negativity doesn't help anyone. Even if you're in, like, a really bad situation, you know, complaining about it doesn't get you anywhere. So I'm all about being proactive. And if you need to share something with people that you're struggling with, great. But don't dwell on it, you know, and just, you know, figure out how you're going to solve it instead of complaining. So that's my answer is complainers and negativity. All right. So what about you,
I like
Kelly?
it.
What
I
annoys
like
you?
it. Okay. Wait. I have a follow-up to that. I know we didn't plan for this. Okay. What do you do about the thing that annoys you?
All right. So I didn't hear you. You got to repeat that.
I'm sorry. My follow-up question, right? So people who complain, right, and complaints in general, it sounds like annoy you. Okay, so what do you do about it?
So what do I do about it? Okay. You know, if they're complaining about something that I can help fix, I'll help fix the problem. Boom, complaint gone, right? But, you know, if it's more of like an attitude thing of somebody who complains all the time, you know, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, like, is this really something that's affecting your day that much? You're like, what if we twist that and instead of looking at it as glass half empty, let's look at it as glass half full and let's turn this into an opportunity, right? So I think it's just being a positive person in people's lives. And, you know, a lot of people get into that rut of, you know, complaining about their daily routine and the daily things that they go through. So I think just approaching everything with a positive mindset and just being enthusiastic about, you know, even the little things makes a really big difference. Uh-oh. I think I lost Kelly here. All right. Oh.
You hear me?
All right, I think she's back. All right. I lost you.
back.
I lost you.
I know. You lost for a minute there. All right, wait. So I heard up until you were saying if people are complaining that, like, if you can put a positive twist on their attitude.
Yeah, so it's just being like a positive influence in people's day and just approaching everything with, you know, enthusiasm, honestly. And
Yeah.
a lot of times what I like to think, like if I start complaining, I complain too, you know, it's natural sometimes. But if I find myself where I'm starting to complain about the little things, you know, I try to compare that, like, is that little thing in my day? Let's compare that to somebody who's like really struggling, right? Like, how do the little things in my day, like, you know, that doesn't compare to like really big problems that are going on in people's lives and in different parts of the world. So like, if I could change my attitude in the little things and just approach it like proactively, positively, and just with enthusiasm, you know, that in turn, you know, reflects on everyone else in your environment, right? So if you're enthusiastic and you're, you know, glass half full instead of half empty, you know, that reflects on everyone else in your workplace, on your team, all of that. So I think if you're just positive and, you know, try to like, all right, so this is another thing. So with complainers,
Yeah.
Thing that I've heard that is really effective for teams. And I just love this because I implemented it on one of my teams in college. If you start hearing your teammates complain, you know, running sprints, oh man, like we got to run like 5 touches or whatever. Oh man, suicide, like shoot, I like missed that wide open layup again. You know, you start pointing your teammates out and you say, what are you doing? You know, and one thing that we always said that became a little bit of a joke, but it really helped the team to be confident. We would say, you're barfing. So like when people are complaining, you would say, hey, Kayla, you're barfing. Like, so just point out like, hey, you're complaining, like, and that complaining is not going to help anyone. So just having that little like keyword of,
I love that.
And like that kind of gave everyone as teammates permission to like kind of call each other out on it. And that all together like helped our team culture and just elevated the effectiveness of our practices and the enthusiasm that we brought to practice every day. So that's just a little tip that's kind of fun to try to just
I love that
kind of complaining. So yeah.
I love it. I think it's awesome. I'm gonna encourage my team to employ that. We'll find our own barfing and we'll use it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, in turn to you, Kelly, what annoys you?
So I kind of had to practice with this because I had it as an interview question, and I'm gonna tweak my answer from then to now. And it's really people who sell themselves short annoy me. And I can see it. I see it all too frequently with players, right? And it probably happens in the realm of just about every career that you could think of too, in that if you are not touching the line, right, on the sprint, right, if you're not finishing the layup, right, after you've missed it once or twice, if you're all those other things, right? Is that me? Oh, sorry, that's me. My phone is going nuts.
Okay.
But if you're selling yourself short, right, who are you really cheating there? Right? You're cheating the team. You're cheating the grander scheme of things, right? But more importantly, like you're cheating yourself, right? And I think that goes, again, basketball is such a metaphorical game, and most sports are, but we love hoops, so we're going to talk about hoops. You know, if you don't look so carefully at that last question on the test, who are you cheating, right? If you're not studying the very last section of the chapter, who are you cheating? You know, if you're not being responsible and the type of person who you could trust, you're just cheating yourself, right? And that drives me bananas. It just drives me crazy. And like my players know it, my fellow coaches know it, my family knows it. Like if I'm famous for one thing, it's like do the details. Do the details, right? Touch the line because you're only cheating yourself, right? And every basketball player in town knows, like if we're about to run a sprint, Coach Kelly says behind the line, like I mean it. Like if there's the line, you better be behind the line. Doesn't mean on the line. Behind the line doesn't mean just in front of the line. Behind the line doesn't mean be behind the line, right? And then touch it with your foot every single time. It drives me nuts. People who and I categorize that under that big umbrella of selling yourself short. I think people are capable of so much if they'd only stop and try and understand that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I really love that. It just accentuates that, you know, the little things really do matter. And that it really teaches character too, right? So if you do all those little things, you know, that tells me a lot about a player. And then if you compare that to the players that don't do those little things and they do sell themselves short and they take those shortcuts, you know, that tells me a little bit about, you know, their character. Because if you take shortcuts on the court, like what kind of shortcuts are you going to take, you know, when you're out in the real world in life? So,
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, I think that's all we have for you guys. Again, I'm Katie, and that's Kelly, and we are Give Go Physio, and we'd love to be a resource for you as coaches and players in the basketball world. So feel free to reach out to us. We're on Instagram at Give Go Physio, and also on Facebook, Give Go Physio Facebook page. And so reach out to us there. We'd love to talk to you guys. Okay. All right, Kelly, so have a fantastic night, and I'll talk to you later.